My life is a bit like origami in reverse. I was born with a last name and all the expectations that came with it. From birth, I was told I was created to be an origami swan, to have perfectly folded edges, to exist on a shelf, to be looked at from a distance, to appear complete, to live precisely. And I tried to live that way. I swear that I did. For so long, I would resist the urge to let go of the form I was told to live by, because they said my happiness was directly tied to how impeccably I could hold my shape. They said that I couldn't show any blemishes or faults if I wanted to be honored. So, even during the days when I could feel the wild geometry inside of me start to transform into poetry, I stayed as folded as I could, despite the growing sound of crinkling paper coming from inside of my loose leaf heart. I clung to my edges. I held my folds. Until one morning, not too terribly long ago, when I woke up and I noticed that one of my perfectly shaped swan wings had a wrinkle in it. So I tried to hide my imperfection from the world by letting people only see my good side, my faultless side, my seamless side. But a short while later, I noticed that my other wing had lost its tight fold, and it was also curling outward. I was coming undone and unfolded right in front of the world, and the rest of me started falling apart soon after. I no longer looked like a perfect swan. I'd become a flattened out piece of paper with more crow's feet creases in it than I could count. Eventually, a breeze came and took me off of my shelf and carried me out into the window and into the soil of the untamed wild. And it was in that moment, when I was my most unfurled self, my most unfolded self, that I called out to God. Where are my perfect folds? Where have my straight lines gone? I asked the empty sky. Soon after, God sprouted out of the ground next to me in the form of a wildflower and said, "They're gone, my love. All those things that you thought you once were, well, they're now gone. Why are you crying?" God asked while stretching out above me with flower petals of at least a half dozen colors that I had never seen before from my safe shelf that I had lived most of my life by. I replied, "Because, God, without my folds and my lines that I was given, I have no purpose. Without my hard edges and my defined creases, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know who I will be," I sobbed. "I do," God said while exploding into an Easter bloom. "You finally get to be you. You are now an untouched canvas who gets to decide what it's marked with. You are lucky enough to be a piece of blank paper that gets to choose what's written on it. You get to be a selection of art that you help create. You are now able to leave behind the expectations this world has for you to be perfect, and now you get to be whatever beautiful mess that you want to be." God was now our towering wildflower that was rising up to kiss the sun. And I looked at myself with new eyes. Instead of being a tightly bound together swan, I was now an outstretched new creation. Instead of being a perfect sculpture, I was an open hand. "What now?" I asked the wildflower of God. "What now?" God laughed. "Anything. Everything. It's all in front of you. It's all adventure from here." And with that, a breeze came and picked me up again and started carrying me to the horizon. And even though I've been a swan my whole life, the first time I ever flew was the moment I had lost my wings. What an adventure it is to come undone.